All right, guys, welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio on this 15th day, tax day. Yeah, as Gary and I and Susan were talking about before the program began, the second hour. Let me, of course, thank Gary and his guests for the first hour every Monday, 5 o'clock West, 8 o'clock East. Gary Hindershot of the Smart Scarecrow program does his alternative energy hour on Wide Awake News Radio. And thank you, Gary, very much for doing that and your production ability for the Monday through Wednesdays program. We greatly appreciate your efforts. And speaking of efforts, I would like to thank Bonnie, webmaster of wideawakenews.com, who has taken a lot of grief this evening because of our new chat room. And I will say this, guys, let's cut her some slack. She is she has worked all weekend to transition us from one server to our new server, and to try to do it as painlessly as possible for the audience and the folks going to Wide Awake News. We're making changes that benefit the people who subscribe to our newsletter, the people who visit our website, and hopefully the people that come into our chat. And apparently there's a lot of folks that did not like at all the new layout, and we're putting some fairly horrible things into the chat room, comments about it. So we're going to switch back to the old one. But let's keep in mind, this is a mom and pop, and actually I should say brother and sister operation, and everything that's done here is done for absolutely free, and we try to provide you with the absolute best chat room possible. It is one of the best in alternative media, at least as far as news programs go. And I feel kind of bad for Bonnie, who had to take a bunch of grief and abuse just tonight when she was trying to implement the new one. So we'll go back to the new one and lighten up. It's only a chat room, for Pete's sake. All right, let's get into some news. Susan Lindauer, I'm going to bring you right on, because here's the deal. It is tax day, and this is right up your alley as far as not just tax day, but this attack that happened in Boston. But I came home, I snuck out of the office for a bit and came and made a commentary video, because I believe when this event went down, coupled with gold and markets taking a beating, man, my hackles went up on my neck right away. And let me explain why, Susan, I was so compelled to come home and make a video. It wasn't because of an attack in Boston. And we don't know the whole ins and outs of who they're going to pin this on, or who's responsible, as it were. But when this attack happened in Boston, the first thing I thought of is it's tax day. The second thing I thought of is Boston Tea Party, and a little bit of research, you find that today is Patriots Day. Patriots Day is every third Monday of April. People celebrate and commemorate the battles of Lexington and Concord that were the beginning of the first American Revolution in 1775. So we have this event happening on this day. It's all, like I said, it's also tax day. A lot of people who believe that we have onerous government stealing us blind have a real problem with April 15th. We're also 4 days before the anniversary of Oklahoma City, as well as the Waco massacre. So I found the timing of these attacks, and coupled with the fact that Eric Holder said just a few months ago he could conceive of a reason why we could kill Americans with drones if they were deemed to be belligerent actors. Pile that with all the other mounds of information that has come out about how Ron Paul supporters, libertarians, people who don't trust the government, people who think that gold and silver are a valuable or a form of currency that is superior to the U.S. dollar. All these reasons that have been given over the last several years on why you might be a terrorist. I saw this attack today, and I thought, oh, man, here we go. The implementation of draconian law, draconian government coming down on people who want to be free. Susan, this event happened, and tell us how this, how this compares to what you've seen in your past.
Well, I'll tell you something. This is a strategy of tension, is what we call it, a strategy of tension. It builds pressure to change laws, and it may have been created by a lone gunman or by a Middle Eastern or a foreign source, or it could be something that's indigenous. But But here's some things to worry about why it is authentic. And all of the things you've said are true. I'm just sitting here listening to you, nodding, saying yes, 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 because all of the concerns that you voiced are my reactions. Oh boy, they're going to use this to come after us. And the problem is that it is an authentic attack. I'm saying that as somebody who's worked on, I've worked in anti-terrorism for a decade. I gave advance warning about the '93 World Trade Center attack, advance warning about the bombing of the USS Cole, advance warning about 9/11. I did one of the first investigations of Osama bin Laden in 1998 before the Dar es Salaam Nairobi bombings. I did the Lockerbie negotiations with Libya for the bombing of the trial of the bombing of Pan Am 103, and I did an operation that pushed all the terrorists out of Libya so that Libya stopped offering sanctuary. I did that at a time when my team, I was the focal person, but I was working with a team behind me who they didn't see. They saw me only. But I was the only the only U.S. contact allowed to visit the Libyan embassy, and I was only one of a handful of people dealing with the Iraqi embassy. And so I am very sensitive to what's, quote, real terrorism and what's fake terrorism, because I deplore the FBI recruiting people.
Yeah.
And and that's the problem, is that they recruit people and they get them they plan it out and they map it out and they get them to do these things. They provide the technical assistance. They go onto the internet. They train them. They have a few meetings with them. But unfortunately, this does have the characteristics of genuine terrorism. And one of the keys is the synchronicity of the bombing, the explosions. That is an old trick from Lebanon during the civil war in Beirut. People who don't do bombings in our regular lives, who are all of us, don't realize how difficult that is. It is actually a mark of a pro to be able to synchronize it. And in Lebanon, they'd have people who could do 9 to 12 at a time.
You mean, what do you mean? You mean setting the timer, or is this individuals with remotes? What?
Yeah, so that they could make the explosions go off simultaneously. It's actually much more difficult than you would imagine to get all the parts combined and to make them stabilized until you want to explode them. And so
okay, you're talking about the chemical process. You're
the
talking
chemical process.
Okay,
and,
all right. I'm thinking, what's so hard? You get a couple alarm clocks, blah blah blah, boom, and
But apparently, it's there's more to it than that.
Yeah,
and,
okay, that makes sense.
And mixing it and holding it in this unstable compound so that it doesn't just detonate prematurely. That's a problem, and that was always a problem with. So I really have to look at this, and I do believe it is authentic. I'm
glad you went there, and I want to stay in this realm for the remaining 3 segments. We're going to hit a break here, but I'm going to pose a question to you. Authentic. I mean, false flags are authentic. I know what you're talking about with these FBI sting operations. That's
the problem. You see, the FBI has polluted this stuff. They've contaminated it. So when something happens, the question is, did somebody set this guy, whoever this is, did somebody set him up and train him and give him the technical assistance and then, just slip him an active bomb? Like the 1993 World Trade Center was like that.
Yeah, I agree, and I want you to continue that thought, but let's wait till after this break. We're going to be right back with Susan Lindauer and more Wide Awake News Radio in just a minute. Hang tight. Welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. Charlie McGrath joined by Susan Lindauer on this 15th day of April, Monday. And Susan and I were talking during the break, and we're going to get into some topics that she wanted to make sure it wasn't too shocking to this audience. Namely, we talked about the FBI and the sting operations, and I assured her that we are more than welcome to go down that road because we talk about these so-called terror events all the time. Now, Susan, you were saying this had all the earmarks of legitimate terrorism, and my only question, and we can move on to whatever you like after this, but my question to you would be, with your experience, and it is vast.
Well, let me just give you an example of what this could be. There's several ways this could be. It could be an authentic attack that was designed by a lone, obviously a lone operator, a lone wolf. It could be a Middle East action. It makes me, I am concerned that I see professional characteristics in it because of the synchronicity of the timing. That is actually much more difficult than anybody would think. And that is something that only a really skilled terrorist is able to pull off. So It's like in their learning curve, when they're, this is not somebody who, I can tell you straight off the top, this is not a bomb that was made in somebody's, kitchen by somebody who just got a recipe off the internet. They may have made it in their kitchen, but sure they may have made it in their kitchen, but they've been doing this for a while, and they've been studying it for a long, long time. These people are experts. Now here's the thing. This recalls to mind the 1993 World Trade Center attack, which now Ramzi Youssef was involved with Sheikh Abdurrahman in a plot, in a conspiracy to assassinate President Hosni Mubarak. And it was from the south of Egypt, which is very poor and very radicalized, and they were part of a whole movement which was genuine Muslim Brotherhood terrorism. Okay? Now this was a group that fragmented away from the Muslim Brotherhood, which is now in power. The Muslim Brotherhood has become more sedate and pedestrian. But these were the radical elements, the most radical elements of the Muslim Brotherhood. So they were, quote, authentic terrorists when they were designing the attack on the World Trade Center. However, the FBI infiltrated the conspiracy and managed it. So you had genuine, authentic terrorists. Ramzi Youssef one of the guys in the conspiracy in the World Trade Center stabbed a guard at the prison in the eyeball and left him brain damaged. Stabbed him right in the eye. These were truly vicious men. Okay, they are killers. They are cold-blooded. They're real SOBs. Okay. But at the same time, in the 1993 World Trade Center case, the FBI infiltrated it. They put a confidential informant, a CI, confidential informant inside the group, and were receiving reports on the planning of the attack. And the FBI knew that this was going to go live. Okay? The FBI was fully aware that they had a real bomb that was going to be put into the World Trade Center, and the informant warned them that there would be an explosion, and the FBI went ahead and let it happen. So the real question is, and the problem is that since 9/11, and I know your audience is familiar with this, there have been so many examples. And I could rattle off a few for you right now to remind people where the FBI has recruited people, trained them, provided technical assistance, and they've done it for a purpose of creating fear in the community to drive the leaders of the community to accept an FBI terrorism planning strategy. Like, I will give you an example. Portland, Oregon, I guess it's now two Christmases ago, or maybe 3 Christmases ago, and they recruited a young Somali, 18, 19 years old, unstable, poor ties with just come over, poor ties to the community, very lonely, He was recruited by the FBI after Portland, Oregon refused to allocate resources away from schools and education for a terrorism planning strategy. And they said, here's a terrorist attack. And the guy, the Somali guy, left a car. The FBI provided a car and held a parking space for the guy right by the Christmas tree. And the Somali guy was supposed to park the car by the Christmas tree.
Right.
Blow it up.
Susan, hold on. We'll pick up on the Oregon Christmas plot when we come back. We're going to take our second break. We'll be right back with Susan Lindauer. More Wide Awake News Radio. Hang tight. Welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. Charlie McGrath, joined by Susan Lindauer. Susan, this is a little bit longer segment here, so hopefully we won't cut you off. You were talking about the Portland Christmas Day bombing and how this was used to convince Oregon to divert some of their monies towards the air quote war on terror. And I want you to continue with that. But the question I have that I want to pose to you is: can this be? You're talking about the precision, the expertise that is apparent in this attack, and the difficulty of that. So, which points to, in your opinion, to a legitimate attack. But could this legitimate attack still be, a false flag? I mean, could this be a legitimate attack that people knew what they're doing because it's designed to be used in a way to as you said at the beginning, strategy of tension, in used to manipulate and control opinion to achieve some kind of ultimate goal.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. Is I think we will find out in the next few days which way it goes. Part of the problem for the FBI now, in my opinion, is that they have contaminated they've cried wolf so many times that anyone who is paying attention, anybody who's awake, now has to ask the question. And the question's got to be one of the first things that has to be answered. Did the FBI know? Did they plan this? Did they lose control of an operation? Or the ATF? I say FBI, it could be ATF, it could be Homeland Security, the feds.
Right,
because they've done it too many times. And there is a precedent of the 1993 World Trade Center attack. And we won't even go off on 9/11 tonight. I'm going to avoid going off on 9/11. You don't even have to go there. The 1993 World Trade Center attack was exactly like that, where they had real bad guy terrorists from Egypt and Pakistan. Ramzi Youssef was from Pakistan. They got life sentences. They had, a history of trying to assassinate world leaders and, President Hosni Mubarak. And they were radical Muslims who we called them, before Al-Qaeda got its official name, we called them the Inter-Arab terror groups. And that meant that they would reach across ethnic and national bounds to plan genuine terrorist attacks. But the problem was that, like in the 93 World Trade Center attack, the FBI found out about it. The FBI was watching the whole thing. The FBI let it happen. And so now, we have this it could be that this will turn out to have been, it has all the hallmarks of a true, authentic, legitimate act of terrorism because of the synchronicity. But the FBI's wrecked its reputation, so we don't know.
Yeah. Well, and it's like I said to you during the break, that the public has been desensitized not only to these events, but also to in a lot of cases, to the official story of why these events occurred. And I'm really curious.
That's right. We can't trust him. We no longer have the trust, and that trust was very valuable. That trust is valuable. That trust is a lot to lose. And when you see the government, the 9/11 story is, like I said, I'm going to avoid going off on that because I could just spend an hour. I'm one of the people who gave advance warnings about 9/11. We knew for months that was going to happen. We could have stopped it any number of ways. The government chose not to do that. At the very least, they chose not to stop it. And there's evidence, obviously, when you add in the demolition and the explosions, that not only did they not stop it, but they also made sure it was going to happen. So they let it happen, and they made it happen.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing becomes this guaranteed cycle of violence. Oklahoma City, the ATF had infiltrated the white separatists that Timothy McVeigh was working with. Some people say that Timothy McVeigh was working on a, quote, legend. And a legend is a cover used by defense intelligence, because that was his background, was defense intelligence. And so some people have argued that maybe he was an informant, and he was being used himself by the ATF, FBI, the original Homeland Security crowd, the precursor to Homeland Security, and they now, and they lost control of the operation, and so that's what you have to start wondering, is if we are creating this, and I want to remind your audience what the Patriot Act stands for.
Please do.
Providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism. And isn't it interesting that today was Patriots Day in Boston? Yeah, no, that's not. Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't realize that there's Patriots Day, and that, even if you look on Wikipedia, that has been turned into for the majority of the people who look up Patriots Day are going to see an entry of how we celebrate, or not celebrate, how we remember the events of 9/11. But the original Patriots Day was a celebration and a remembrance of the Battle of Lexington and Concord of 1775, the beginning of the First American Revolution. And the coincidences, a lot of weird things have happened. A lot of very scary things have happened, and pivotal things that have happened in this time of year. Again, Tax Day, Patriots Day, in remembrance of the Revolution. Coming up on the 19th, we'll have the anniversary of the things you mentioned before, Waco and Oklahoma City. That's why
right.
it just seems real coincidental that the Boston Marathon, Boston Tea Party, the birthplace of the Revolution, is going to be involved in an attack.
And let's remember that the Boston crowd has the quote liberal Northeast has been some of the most passionately outspoken opponents of the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
Across the whole country, this is the group of people who have been the most resistant to police controls.
Yeah, as well, and Gitmo and rendition.
Gitmo and rendition, and they are the young student population. They have a young student population that is much more activist oriented and much more liberal leaning, because young people tend to be, I'm stereotyping everybody, but young people tend to be more progressive, and you tend to become more conservative as you get older, and that's kind of sort of the natural order of things. So you have a population that has been creating problems for the government, resisting Obama's policies within the Democratic circles. And so it's awfully convenient that the Democrats would benefit from reining in and clamping down on the activism of Obama's most vocal opponents.
Yeah.
And they're not the pro-gun opponent or the anti-gun opponent. Well, they may be anti-gun, but Obama's anti-gun, so that's not the point. That doesn't. But they are the most opposed to the drones. They are the most supportive of civil rights. And so what they're saying to the other people, the bigger community, is, hey, look, you really should sacrifice your civil rights. You've been treating this like it's a hypothetical, theoretical possibility that you'd be that you'd suffer terrorism, and look what just happened to you. Man, you shouldn't be pressuring us so hard. You should be backing down from some of your criticism of Obama.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. And it's this reminder. Maybe all these sting operations weren't quite enough to use as propaganda, as a reminder, and allowing something like this to occur, or having something like this to occur, certainly is going to, we're going to beat up all the drums of war on terror once again. Remind the people that they should be terrified every time they turn around. Susan Lindauer, we're going to be back with you and more Wide Awake News Radio in just a few minutes. Please hang tight. All right, welcome back to the final segment of Wide Awake News Radio on this 15th day of April. Susan Lindauer is our guest. Susan, what website should people go to see your work and to read about your experiences?
Go to my website is extremeprejudiceusa.wordpress.com, and that's the website for my book Extreme Prejudice, which is available on Amazon and Kindle. And what you'll read is the horrifying story that I lived through as the second non-Arab American ever indicted on the Patriot Act. I was subjected to secret charges, secret evidence, secret grand jury testimony, things that are just impossible to imagine could even happen in the United States of America. I was locked up on a military base for a year, with no right to a trial or hearing, not even a hearing, okay? And the only reason I was and the government the whole time fought to detain me indefinitely for up to 10 years with no hearing, okay? They just wanted to lock me up, but this was like pre-NDAA, and the only thing that saved me was the internet radio. And if you don't think that it makes a difference, everybody out there, you guys are so wrong. I'm glad to tell you, it was the hosts who were doing my story were small, very, 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 very small, and they were not big and powerful. It wasn't Alex Jones who did it. It was Greg Szymanski and Derek Gilbert and some of these guys who I don't even know where they are anymore. And we had they've just kind of gone on their way, but they made a stand, and they were like, something's wrong, and they were paying attention. They were way on the cutting edge, and they forced the government's hand. But when I hear something like this story today, and let me remind you that what the Patriot Act stands for is providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism. That is what it means. That's an acronym, or whatever that's called, the acronym for the Patriot Act.
Right.
And I was accused of warning about 9/11 and doing the 9/11 investigation, and so they're using terrorism as a decoy to attack activists and whistleblowers. And sedition is free speech is the new sedition. There's such a broader, wider definition of violence that it's just the act of speaking against the government, confronting the government, the confrontation, even in a peaceful, nonviolent setting, that never advocates violence, that never advocates revolution. Just that it's in itself becomes a threat. And so when I see something like this, I don't trust them at all. And I hope that my faith and my despair, my paranoia over the government is exaggerated. I keep hoping that.
Well, I don't know how that we could think it'd be, after especially what you've been through, to think that's exaggerated. I think you're underplaying the reality that speaking out is sedition.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem. We have a government that is setting us up for martial law. I am convinced of this, and I don't want to believe it. And I know that a lot of people in America don't want to believe it. They're like, no, that's paranoia, that's fearfulness. But hey, it is happening, and this is how they're going to do it. We see what the gold bullion is being sold off on naked. They call it naked shorts, which is people who do not even own the gold are selling shorts, selling gold shorts to drive down the prices. Well, who does that? The federal government does that. The central banks do it. The Federal Reserve does it. And why are they doing that? Because they're trying to protect the dollar, because they're afraid that we're about to go into a major economic collapse. So they're driving down the assets. This is the scariest time. And then you see something like this Boston Marathon, and the problem is it's too good. The attack.
That's right.
You're going to have to take my word on this. You may say you may not understand the technical part of it, but it is too good. It means that it's too professional. So either they really are professional terrorists, or somebody who really knows what the heck they're doing has orchestrated this thing. It is not a mom and pop who created a little bomb in their kitchen.
Right.
It is not that. It has to be a professional or someone who is capable of mimicking a professional, and that would be the FBI. And in which case, that's just the most despicable thing. But it should show you why we should be afraid.
No doubt about it, and too good. I think of the stuff that we were talking about earlier, the day of the year that it occurred, the location that it occurred, other events that are closely that are in the very, very near future, just 3 or 4 days away. Anniversary of those dates, those anniversary dates being real big, especially in the freedom movement. Not only is it too good as far as the how it was perpetrated. It's too coincidental, and it's just this big.
Yeah, they're trying to make it seem like the freedom movement wants to kill people.
Yes.
We want to kill. We want to kill children. We want to. I mean, I consider that I'm part of the freedom movement, and I consider the freedom movement as like trying to protect America. Thank you very much.
No doubt.
We are not the bad guys, but they're trying to make it seem like people who would support our types of values are a threat to America. And that's why I'm very suspicious of this thing. This is just, it's too good. It is too good. I mean, not too good. Good is not the right word. It's too professional.
Yeah, and it's also, it's too professional, like I said, in the perpetration of it, but it's also, it's a big, fat birthday cake for tyrannical government. It's like we talked about during the break. We don't let a good crisis go to waste, and this one is certainly going to be played upon, no doubt about it. Yeah.
And it'll be like the World Trade Center of 1993. That starts something, and they're gonna. I predict that they will not rush to make an arrest right away. They'll wait to see. They'll kind of draw this thing out, and I just wonder if we're going to find out that the FBI was involved.
Well, one thing you said to me during the break that I want to touch on with only a few minutes left is that, especially with all you've been through, that you see these events occur being either, false flag or a real terrorist event carried out against the United States by whoever. And I don't think you're alone in this, because I think the same way. You were more concerned about the destruction of freedom than the actual destruction of life. I know it's really hard to say, and it sounds callous and like we're not caring, but the events of 9/11, horrific as they were, regardless of what you believe, there was a lot of people who died, and it's a horrific event. But in full retrospect and through the 2020 vision of looking into the past, we have seen we've seen millions, potentially the number is as high as millions of people around the planet die, and our country be transformed through this crisis event into this, what we have now, a nation on the verge of any moment of martial law, a nation that has been turned into a police state. Yes,
and that's the problem. We are moving in leaps and bounds to become a police state. And you know, I have come to expect that there will be another knock at the door, and sometimes I find myself imagining it and bracing myself for it, and how you got to come after me for no reason except the fact that they they're going to come after people who speak out.
You bet.
They're going to come after all of us who are speaking out. It won't just be me, but I find myself preparing myself mentally for how to control myself, how to prepare myself for when the knock comes, and that it will come. And that's the sad thing, is that now I no longer feel like a free American. I feel like I'm on borrowed time. I really do. I believe that, not that anybody has threatened me in the past week or month or anything like that, but I feel like we're all on borrowed time. And when they come, they'll come for us, those of us who are still speaking. And I've been sending my friends emails today in response to this attack, saying that I feel like it's like the calm before the storm, and we have to focus on the tranquility of the last days of peace, because that when the battle comes and the storm comes, it will wash over us and it'll just pound us. And we may be experiencing the last free days of our country right now, right at this moment.
Well,
I mean, literally the last 3 days. And then you see Boston, and you think to yourself, my God, how much are they going to take because of this?
Right. Well, there's a lot of things going on, right? And we have the whole financial thing that we didn't even touch on, and a little bit about gold, but we have this massive sell-off in gold. And if after the program, if you want to go to my YouTube channel, guys, I just put out a video on things that have happened when gold has fallen this far in recent history. And
but hold on. This was shorted. These were short sales.
Sure, they were in the other cases
engineered, and it was mostly gold paper,
right.
And they're trying to force the people who have the physical gold. They want the people with the physical asset to sell it off. And who's buying it? The government is buying it.
Well, thanks for buying it. You bet. Susan Lindauer, thanch you very much. Give us your website again real quick, please.
ExtremePrejudiceUSA.wordpress.com.
ExtremePrejudiceUSA.wordpress.com?
Yes.
All right. Susan Lindauer, thank you very much. I'll check in with you to get your take on what as this situation develops, and we'll get you on again next month. Does that sound all right?
Okay. Take care. I'd love to come back.
All right. Thanks, Susan. Great interview as always.
Thanks.
Guys, thank you. Guys, please stay tuned for Jeff Fitzgerald coming up next. And I will tell you that this time tomorrow we will have the chat room, the original chat room back up and running. So, all right. Until tomorrow night, have a good night. Peace.